All right, so today I have the pleasure of speaking with Jess Hughes, the owner and founder of Citizen Pilates. How you doing, Jess?
Hey Warren, I'm well. Thanks for having me.
That's awesome. I can't wait to hear your story. It's so exciting to hear how business owners, well, first of all, got started and what motivated them. And so I'd love to, if you're cool with that, I would love to get your kind of your story and how you got going.
Yeah, it's really short and simple. About 10 years ago, I was visiting a Pilates studio in Houston, and quite honestly, I just didn't think they were running a good business. It felt like a passion project, and I felt myself and found myself trying to help them with their business. And one day decided that I would give it a go. And my background is in oil and gas, economics specifically. And so, building a business, building a drill site, not too different, maybe a little less expensive, but you need a piece of property, you need equipment, and you need people to run it. And those are basically the three things. And you put those numbers together, and here we are, almost 10 years later, and doing quite well. So the story is really simple. I people always ask if I have this huge passion for Pilates in general as an exercise, and my answer is no. I have a passion for what it does for people. Pilates has been around for a very long time. It's not a fad. It speaks to every demographic. It's very inclusive if you do it the right way. And that's where we go. That's what we do at Citizen. We're just, we kind of market ourselves to people who otherwise might be afraid to get off the couch. Maybe not necessarily avid workout people, but they know that they need to do something for their bodies. And it's definitely considered low impact and something that really anybody can work up to. And that's what we do 7 days a week.
That is incredible. Okay, so there's so much I want to unpack there. But first of all, I love how smart people can take a really difficult concept and make it simple, which you have done in the fact that you started a business and you said you needed a piece of land and you needed people. And what was the other one?
Equipment.
Uh, Equipment. Yeah. And well, and you needed a concept too, right? So you needed an idea that was at least maybe not unique, but you thought you could do better than what was out there and better than the competition. Would that be fair?
It is fair. And typically I kind of roll my eyes when I hear someone say, oh, I can do it better. But I think I approached it not necessarily that I had more experience in the fitness realm, which I did not. My experience was as a client, as a consumer, as a guest in other people's studios. But I think when I say I could do it better, I meant from a, operational standpoint
Yeah.
and from a big focus of ours is on employee retention rather than client retention. And those were two things that I just really do well. And that's where it was. And it really wasn't a concept. It's a Pilates studio. It is not a new idea, right?
Sure.
It's 2,000 square feet. You have 10 machines. You run 70 classes a week. It's not that unique. But it is difficult. And it is, success isn't earned, and success is earned by paying those dues every month. And if you look at success like rent, well, rent is due once a month. So you've got to keep, it's a living body. I don't have children, but sometimes I feel like, we're open 7 days a week. And sometimes as a business owner, you can feel like you never get a day off. And those were the early years for us, but also being able to delegate and instill a confidence level into your employees to let them know that you believe them to be decision makers, you believe them to be the authority in the studio when they're there is really important.
That's awesome. So I always think about that empowering employees as a big piece of employee growth and employee retention. And you mentioned employee retention as like you're very focused on that. Can you talk more about that? And first of all, do you agree with that statement? And then can you talk more about that? Because I'd love to hear
Yeah,
it.
I think if you're in a service-based business, you don't have anything if you don't have your people, right? We could have the best studio, the best margarita, the best burger in town, the best anything, whatever you're providing as a service or a product, if you don't have people that really believe in your brand and are happy to be there, you literally have nothing. There is no way that I could teach 120 classes a week. Obviously, it's just physically impossible. And being able to grow your business rather than just tend to it is very different. So I think a lot of small business owners, especially in the fitness business, it's been my experience that they love to go through this managerial hierarchy, right? They hire a manager to run a business so that they can be a bit of an absentee owner. And I've just seen over the past 20 years, it's just really a big recipe for resentment amongst your team, and just really kind of a poor way to run your business. So, about 7 years ago, a good friend of mine gave me a book by a local author here in Houston, who actually owns one of the biggest PEO companies in Sparity.
Oh.
And the name of the book was Take Care of Your People. And
Mhm.
she gave it to me, and it was really kind of one of those eye opening experiences where, just kind of allegorically, I would have never thought to treat my clients less than my employees, or to say that in reverse, I would have never really, I hadn't just given a lot of thought to that one sentence. You should treat your employees better than your clients. And I think most people would go, well, that's backwards. My clients give me money, my employees take money. And I really think that if that means that your business, if your organization is always focused on just money, it's really kind of upside down. So I've
Mhm.
flipped the pyramid and not necessarily put clients at the bottom, but I certainly put our employees at the very top.
That is brilliant. And I completely agree. The customer's always right is not right.
In my experience, the customer is usually wrong. um, and it's easy for me to say that now, this far into my business, and being able to say no as a business owner, but being able to say it in a respectful way that is more factual and less of feeling is something that a lot of people don't have the confidence to say to a client. Um, I would rather tell a client no than tell an employee no, because an employee is usually coming to me with an idea, a concept, an event, a request. And honestly, if it's, as long as it's, something manageable, the answer is usually always yes, so long as they have a bit of data to back it up. Instead of
Sure.
just saying, hey, Jess, I think we should offer classes at midnight on Saturday, I'm going to say, well, why? And I'm going to ask you why about 4 times. And if you can't answer me 4 times, probably a bad idea. But
Mm.
I appreciate you thinking about how the business could evolve. And maybe the answer is, well, I know a bunch of women who are shift workers at
Yeah.
hospitals,
Yeah.
and they're wide awake at midnight and they need a place to unwind. And I personally would like to host that class for them. That's a really great answer to me. And I'm happy to give it a try. And if it works, great. And if it doesn't, we at least tried it. And that employee knows that the answer is going to always and typically be yes, but give me the data to back it up, or give me a really well thought out reason why we should do something.
That's incredible. So you're in, do you incentivize your employees to come up with out of the box thinking, or you just encourage it?
No, I don't incentivize them. I do encourage it though. And we always, I think with that, there comes a lot of excitement for the team. When we know that there's going to be an event that Citizen is being asked to host, we know that there's going to be, a show that's getting filmed. And, we're so active. Our brand really goes way much further than just what we would call, the inner loop here in Houston, right? We have people that drive in from Sugarland, from where you're hosting from. And I think that encouragement is something that excites my employees. And our clients really sense that excitement and sense that really just well thought out sense of teamwork when they come into the studios. I think everybody on, listening to this podcast, and you and I, we've all walked into a small business where you can tell something's wrong.
Yep.
And maybe not wrong overall, but right, something just happened and there's some tension that you can really cut with a butter knife, if you will. And that just is not anything that happens at Citizen. And I think it's because of the encouragement, our training, our constant, we love to celebrate as many milestones as we can, not only for clients, but also for our team. And it's a encouragement is a full-time job. And I think that you have to have a system set up. You've got to have technology to help you, but you also have to be consistent.
I love that. I like that you mentioned celebrating milestones and celebrating wins or can you talk more about how you're intentional about doing that? Because that's such a good one for employee retention.
Yeah, I think at the very basic level, let's just start with birthdays, right?
Hmm.
Um, Birthdays are fun. Birthdays are exciting, especially for my demographic of employees. So typically we employ, younger professionals, maybe just starting out, maybe college graduates, maybe, men or women who really want to pursue a career in dance or theater or fitness. And so it's fun, it's exciting, and to have a whole group of people to celebrate that is really fun. But I think also then celebrating, in my instance, our instructors teach classes every week, and so we have been able to work with some of our tech partners so that we can hit those milestones, and to be able to say, on Monday, that Christy, who has been a client for years but jumped over to the other side of instruction, on Monday she taught her 700th class.
Mm,
And just to be able to, think about that, and I'm sure she just paused and went, wow, how far have I come? And we celebrated internally, we celebrated externally. And then we also celebrate work anniversaries. So, Joey celebrated his 5th year with us. And being able to just acknowledge that
mm.
and to give that person and that member on my team a moment to go, oh my God, I've been here for 5 years. And to think about how much fun it's been, or like, oh my God, feels like 10 maybe. I'm not sure, what those internal reactions are.
Right.
But I think, you should be able to leverage your tech, right? And our payroll company definitely helps us, but we have to dig for that. We have to ask for that. You can have all of this technology available to you, but if you're not willing to really work inside of the
Mm.
confines of that technology and to customize it for your group set, then it's really just, pushing a button and sending direct deposit out. We don't have an HR department. Most small businesses don't. But if you
Yeah.
can leverage these services that you pay monthly and ask, what else can you do for me? Whereas I'm the client and they keep, pushing the envelope for me as a client, they keep my business. And in turn, it keeps my team happy, and it just elevates us to a different level that perhaps some other places don't celebrate as much.
Man, that's brilliant. I think I can tell you for sure in my car, I use about 10% of the technology. And I bet in my business, I'm using 10% as well, and I'm paying for 100%,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So why not use 100%?
Or at least, strive for half, just,
Yeah.
and make them come half. And I think that that's a really big piece for small businesses. We have a ton of digital options available to us. I think a lot of small businesses have a very quick knee-jerk reaction, but I think making sure that you're really spending time as a business owner and you're carving time out on your calendar.
Hmm.
I have time on my calendar, just like I reserve time for our chat today, Warren, that is just for business development. And if you're just starting out, it's even more important. And of course, some people think, well, there's just no way I can't do that. Well, if you're not willing to work on your business, I just don't think that you have a huge factor for success.
That's brilliant. We coach people all the time. It's like the first thing you got to put on your calendar is time to work on your business because that's the most important but not urgent stuff, right?
Yeah. And it's okay if you skip it, if you say, well, actually, I just got invited to happy hour. I mean, it happens, right? But at least
Yeah.
it's on your calendar. At least it's visually, you're looking at your phone, you're looking at your calendar, you know that you've got to make time for something. And I think just calendaring all of those events also frees up space. And that's another big piece that I have for, new business owners, seasoned business owners. Put it on your calendar.
Hmm.
And coming from the boutique fitness business, our entire business is run off of minutes, right?
Yeah.
We start class at 6:45 a.m., not 6:43, not 6:47. And it's something that our clients really appreciate because they've only carved out 45 minutes, and they want to make sure that we're respectful of their time. And we too want them to be respectful of our instructors' time.
Yes. And it's funny how I think you so captured that so well because people think about, oh my gosh, if I put this on my calendar, it's going to take up time. Actually, it makes you time because
Yeah.
it gives you freedom and it gives your mind freedom to know, oh, like here's where I have my schedule. And I see so many
Yes.
businesses that are so reactionary because they don't have that time schedule.
Well said. Everyone's putting out fires instead of figuring out how to prevent them.
Brilliant. I love it. Okay, so tell me, if you're going to start over again, it's been 10 years. Congratulations. That's awesome.
Thank you.
What would you have done differently?
Oh man. Um, I think in the very early years, especially coming from a very male dominated corporate environment,
Hmm.
oil and gas in Texas, it's, you know, which I loved, by the way. I absolutely loved it. I think being a little more empathetic to a younger female employee group,
Okay.
when you're the only female sitting in a board meeting with a private equity company in London, there's no feelings, there's no emojis, there's no there's not really even a lot of time to joke around. Time is
Hmm.
money.
Yes.
And me taking that experience, which is, and then going into a completely female dominated environment, both from a clientele standpoint and a team standpoint, it
Yeah.
was a huge learning curve for me. Huge. I quickly learned that if you ended a sentence with a period, that your employees thought at the time that, I was mad at them because I didn't end it with a smiley face or an exclamation point. And I just could never imagine texting my CEO and putting a smiley face. There's just no way. He, let alone, the chairman of the board, that there's just no way. And so 10 years later, I'm 10 years older also, a lot softer, much more empathetic, but
Hmm.
also I still stand by, one of my internal little slogans is, let's fight or discuss with facts and not feelings.
Hmm.
And I think that that's also a really good professional development moment for a lot of the younger women on my team who don't have a lot of experience in the workforce. Maybe they're just out of college. Maybe they didn't go to college. Maybe they
Hmm.
are just loving doing what they do. But I think that it's another piece of, I love to make people, we talk about their resources and their skills and some continuing education for certain employees who are really wanting to dig deeper into the business. And so being able to kind of pass along some of that wisdom is really important to me, especially to a younger female audience.
That's great. So how do you balance empathy and accountability?
Oh, that's very simple for me. The accountability piece is number one for me.
Okay.
Like, again, our business is all run on time and somebody being at the studio for clients. If you are not there and clients are standing outside in the parking lot, that's a big discussion.
Hmm.
Uh, there are lots of things. I believe that being on time is intentional, and being late is a choice. And we really talk about those things in our employee onboarding. We really talk about those things. We have constant discussions. And I think that empathy really comes for unforeseen circumstances,
Hmm.
which can be a lot when you employ, 25 to 30 young women. Uh, so the empathy piece is there. The accountability piece, though, I think as humans, we all crave accountability and we all crave boundaries. And
Hmm.
I think that I set really strong, very definitive boundaries for my team at Citizen. And I really do think that they appreciate that because they know that those boundaries are supported. And so accountability, one, is an absolutely must. And if you're not an accountable person to not only your team but also to your clients, it's just not a good place for you to work. We don't thrive on chaos, and a
Yeah.
lot of people that don't do well at Citizen. We are very consistent with our team, we are very consistent with our clients, our messaging, and our core values. And that's really what I lean back into is, I like to ask him, do you know how you got into this position, to put that accountability back onto them?
Hmm. That's great. I like clarity. I like that you mentioned clarity because clarity, knowing what the rules of the game are is
Right.
extremely important in a business or in life, right? If you know what the rules of the game are, you can choose to go by the rules, or if you don't obey the rules, you're going to get a flag thrown.
That's it.
Yeah, that's good. Okay, so you mentioned these are things you look for when you're hiring. What else do you do when you're hiring people? What else do you consider? What else do you look for?
So, interestingly enough, most people that we bring into our training program, unless you were, since we've just been doing this for so long, most of our instructors these days, Warren, come from our client pool. They're
Hmm.
really interested. They are really familiar with the brand. They're familiar with the movements, the terminology, and they just like it. And they're looking for maybe just something a little more fun and extra. We don't really have any buckets per se. If
Hmm.
I had to say, where do our employees come from? 25% of our employees have corporate jobs and they're looking for a really fun weekend release. They love what they do. And it just kind of goes out from there. I look for somebody who is kind, somebody is who is polite, because
Hmm.
these are all things that I don't have time to teach you, and other people in your life should have instilled these soft skills. I can teach anybody to teach a 45-minute class. If you don't have a confidence level to be in a room full of strangers,
Hmm.
if you are not into public speaking, this is probably not your gig. If you also are uncomfortable being in a room of people that don't look like you, perhaps don't sound like you, don't speak like you, Citizen is probably not the place for you to work.
Hmm.
So we have, so when I'm looking for those soft skills, I'm hiring for spunk. I want someone who has that light in them, who wants to do this. And our hiring process is, it's pretty simple. I used to spend or waste tons of hours meeting people in coffee shops, asking about this, that, and the other. And now it's very simple to me. If we get someone that's interested, they find us through one of our channels, our website, so be it. I send them a link for a 15-minute chat with me. That instantly gives them some accountability. They schedule their call, they pick whatever daytime, it goes on their calendar, or maybe it doesn't. Maybe they have no idea how to use a calendar. But the first point of contact that we have, I always call them. And it's pretty funny. Sometimes I'll get people who answer the phone, hello? Because they have no idea that their phone is supposed to be ringing at 11:15 a.m. on Friday, July 12th, because they've scheduled the call. Or, hey, Jess, this is Kristen. And so we have that, right? And so that just kind of,
Hmm.
or they don't answer the phone at all. And if they don't
Yeah.
answer the phone at all, then that's just the end of that. I haven't really wasted, I've maybe wasted 15 minutes, but I certainly didn't waste 45 minutes in a coffee shop. Afterwards, I either know you or I don't, and that's fine. And if I don't know you, I think you get a sense of people pretty quickly. We have a very casual conversation with just myself and the other person on the line. If you've not ever taken class at Citizen, I put a few classes on your account. I ask you to go be a guest in my studio to take a couple of classes, and just see if you like it. Maybe
Hmm.
you don't. Maybe you walk in and go, yeah, this isn't my thing. Because if you don't like it, well, then I don't want you working there.
No.
Yeah,
No.
and so, and again, I'll go back to that person. Let's say I've just never met you before, but I've had a 15-minute call with you. I give you a couple of free classes. I don't give anyone on my team a heads up. There's no secret
Oh.
shopping. There's nothing of that nature. You're just a new client, and I want to know how your experience was. You go through all of the same, client retention tools that we have, and I put the ball in your court. And so after you've taken 2 classes, you're either going to follow up with me or you're not. And if you don't follow up with me, I'm not really out anything.
Yeah.
And if you do follow up with me, then we take that to the next level and I invite you to training. And again, for the person that I've never met before, it's probably 3 weeks and I've invited you to training and I've just never actually seen your face before. I don't care what you look like. I do care if I can tell if you're kind, I can tell if you're well spoken, I can tell if you're confident on the phone. Um, I have no idea what you look like until I meet you in training one day. And that's how we go through our hiring process.
I love the efficiency in putting the responsibility back on the employees, potential employees. And man, you can tell a lot. That's, yeah, even just by how they answer the phone. That's brilliant. Thank you for that. I like that. Okay, I'll get one more question from you, maybe two, but one I really want to ask you. So somebody wants to start their own business. They take the jump like you did.
Yes.
they're coming from corporate.
Yeah.
What are the differences between working in a job in corporate, even running something, which you ran something,
Yeah.
and running a business?
Oh, I think there's a bunch of stereotypes there, right? I think we have this, there's a lot of I'm working for the man. Um, and I go on record. I love corporate America. I love the opportunity to be a part of a team. I sometimes love the thought of not being able to you don't have to take your work home. There is absolutely nothing wrong if you are thriving at a company as an employee. If you are happy, you are getting paid what makes you happy, what you feel your worth is, I say stay there. Now, let's say that you've decided you have an idea. An idea is great, but the execution of that idea is a completely different skill set. If you do not have the acumen to run a business, to deal with people, to be your own accountant, your own HR department, your own legal department, your own marketing department, this just is not for you. When I'm typically mentoring a couple of newbie business owners, they give me their idea, and I try to talk them out of it during our 30-minute call. And if
Okay.
I can't talk them out of it, I think they should, prosper and move forward with that. But keep in mind, it's um, the other piece of this is capital, Warren. Um,
Mm.
it's very hard to get a loan as a small business owner in your first year. A bank is not going to loan you money, not even the SBA. They're just not, um, especially if you have no experience.
Mhm.
So, one, you've got to be willing to either cash in your 401k, get a loan from friends. If you do not have sufficient capital, just don't do it.
Mm.
And also, you're stepping away from a huge benefits package, most likely, right? You've got a direct deposit every other Friday. You have a 401k that your company matches dollar for dollar. You and your family are insured on your benefits plan that your employer sponsors. These are all wonderful things. So you really need to be able to, get a spreadsheet, a piece of paper, whatever it is, and see how much money you really need to have to be able to step away from that. And then being able to just jockey your horse 24/7. It's really hard. Uh, I was fortunate when I decided to start Citizen. I was an executive assistant to the CEO that I've mentioned on this podcast a couple of times. I worked remotely. I've been working from home since 2012,
Mm.
and he traveled all around the world to all of our manufacturing facilities. And I, for the most part, stayed on his time zone. So if he was in London, I was up around 3 a.m. and
Wow.
I'd work until about noon, because at that point it's dinner time. All the guys are they're at dinner. And so I had that time on to work on my business. That's a pretty unique situation.
Mm.
I couldn't imagine being in an office at 8 a.m. and leaving at 4 p.m. and going to run a business.
Mm.
Uh, so I think you have to decide, are you going to be an e-commerce business? Are you going to be a brick and mortar? What is your product versus what is your service? I think there's just a lot of drill down that really, you have to have an honest conversation with yourself and your family, because it is going to affect your family. It's going to affect your partner, your boyfriend, your girlfriend, your kids. It's going to affect your dog, right? There's going to be a lot less outdoor walks on the weekends
Yeah.
if you're having to hustle and manage a career and a small business.
That's great. Thank you. That's that's a good place to end, and that's really good wisdom. And very true. Very true, right?
Yep.
Thank, thank you, Jess. You congrats on 10 years and running a very successful business. I'm sure you're going to do more and more great things. And I just really appreciate your time. It's really great to talk to you.
Thanks for having me, Warren. Let's do it again soon.
All right. Talk to you soon. See you.